Hello. Where in the world are you viewing from? Barcelona, New York, or some small corner in the middle of the night? Put your head on the pillow, take a deep breath, and let's open an old photo that has been sleeping for more than a century. A family portrait taken in 1902, seemingly ordinary. But when enlarged, it has left photography experts speechless. In the middle of Barcelona's ancient Gothic quarter, where the cobblestone alleys still echo with the footsteps of tourists, there is a small workshop specializing in restoring old photos. Its owner, Isef Martinez, is used to looking at thousands of old photos, each carrying a piece of time. However, that morning when Maria Vidal, a middle-aged woman, walked in with a small wooden box, Isef immediately sensed something was different. Maria said that inside the box was a family treasure she had inherited from her great-grandmother. "My family has always kept these photographs," she said softly, placing the special one on the wooden table. "But this one is the most precious. It shows my great-grandfather and his 3 children in 1902 in their home in Barcelona." Isef gently lifted the photograph. The paper was a dark brown, but the composition was perfect, the standard of the Victorian era. In the frame, a man in his 40s with a stern face, dressed in a dark suit and elegant waistcoat, stood upright behind his wife. She, introduced by Maria as Esperanza Vidal, sat on an upholstered chair, her figure elegant. The 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, were arranged around their parents with the familiar rigidity of the time when cameras required the photographer to hold the same pose for a long time. Isef's eyes fell on her mother. Esperanza wore a black satin dress with intricate lace detailing a string of pearls around her neck, and her hands rested on her thighs, wearing expensive rings that reflected the studio light. Her hair was styled in a Gibson girl style, an iconic hairstyle of the early 20th century, and looked elegant and perfect. What surprised Isef most was not the pose or the outfit, but the extraordinary sharpness. With the technology of 1902, capturing each lace line, each individual pearl, was almost impossible. "This is strange," he muttered, adjusting his magnifying glass. He decided to use the highest level of restoration technique, scanning the image at maximum resolution, and then refining every detail to restore it to its original glory. Little did he know, this decision would open the door to a story that the descendants of the Vidal family had believed for over 100 years, and which would be shattered in just a few hours. The 9600 DPI scanner hummed to life, layer upon layer of old photos being transformed into data, so sharp it could be enlarged infinitely. On the high-resolution screen, every thread and strand of hair was clearly visible. Isef began his usual routine, removing brown stains from mold erasing spiderweb-like cracks, restoring the hues of light and dark areas. Then, he slowed down. As he lifted his mother's face to 4 times its size, something strange appeared. Just next to the left ear, where the thick curl of hair curled neatly, there was a texture that was different from the rest. As if something was hidden under the hair. Have you ever looked at a family photo of yourself and suddenly noticed a detail that you couldn't explain? Isef squinted, his heart racing, then opened the specialized filter, the software he had spent 15 years researching, to peel back layers of old photos. And in just a few clicks, the secret appeared. Just below the seemingly natural hair, the edge of something that did not belong to the body appeared. A thin, sharp edge like a blade glinted in the artificial light. It was the edge of an elaborate wig. Isef sat silently in front of the screen. Why would a woman of Barcelona's upper class in 1902 have to hide her hair under a wig? And why had that detail never been noticed by anyone in the Vidal family for over a century? What do you think? Would you continue to zoom in or close the file to keep the peace? The night in Barcelona was still long, and the secret in that photo had only just begun to unfold. Where are you viewing from? Leave a comment so we can continue our journey into the shadows of history, where each old photo can whisper things no one has ever heard. Are you still awake? Let the soft glow of the screen take us on this slow journey. The 1902 photo seemed to have given away all the secrets, but what lay beneath the wig was only the first door. As he zoomed in on the face, Isef Martinez leaned silently toward the screen. He adjusted the sharpness until every pore seemed to rise from the past. And then, something made his heart beat faster. The woman's skin was not natural. Under the digital scanner, Isef noticed layers of powder and cream applied with almost professional skill. In 1902, cosmetics was still primitive, but here each layer seemed to be from the future. Smoothed, concealing all identifying features. The climax of the horror came when Isef applied digital spectroscopic analysis, a technology often used to reconstruct hidden details in paintings. After a few manipulations, the skin behind his right ear revealed a faint but distinct symbol, a small swirling tattoo as delicate as a secret signature. And under the corner of his left eye, where the thickest layer of makeup covered it, a crescent-shaped scar was revealed. A woman in the early 20th century in high-class Barcelona, concealing her body with wigs, modern cosmetics, and even a tattoo. It was more than a portrait. It was a role. The woman in the photo, the one the Vidal family believed for more than a century to be Esperanza Vidal, had probably never existed. The thought sent a chill down Isef's spine. If this wasn't Esperanza, then who was she? And why did she need to create a completely new identity? He decided to call Maria Vidal, but chose his words carefully. I found some interesting details, he said slowly over the phone, that might help us understand your family history. Maria, can you show me the documents related to Esperanza? The next afternoon, Isef went to Maria's apartment in the Grazia neighborhood. The space was like a miniature museum, filled with antique furniture and photographs of several generations of the Vidal family. Maria brought out an intricately carved wooden box. My great-grandmother used to say that Esperanza was an extraordinary woman, she said, her eyes lighting up as she talked about family law. She was highly educated, spoke several languages, a rarity in those days. My great-grandfather Ricardo loved her dearly, but she died young, only 3 years after their marriage of tuberculosis. Isef took each document that Maria carefully placed on the table. The 1898 marriage certificate confirmed Ricardo Vidal, 38, a textile industrialist, married Esperanza Monontoya, 24, no profession, from Valencia. But Isef immediately noticed something unusual. Esperanza's signature smooth artistic didn't look like that of an uneducated girl. Next to it was a stack of love letters. Esperanza wrote perfect Spanish, but with an eye that had studied thousands of ancient texts. Isef detected grammatical structures and expressions that sounded like French skillfully translated. It was as if the writer were borrowing Spanish to hide her origins. Maria then produced a death certificate dated March 3, 1905. Cause tuberculosis. But again, there were no medical records to support the diagnosis, nor were there any family letters mentioning Esperanza's illness. Does the family still have any of her personal belongings? Isef asked softly. Maria led him to a dark wooden cabinet, which opened to a glittering world of the past gold jewelry, engraved with French letters, several volumes of French poetry, with handwritten notes, and most importantly, a small worn leather-bound diary. Isef flipped through the pages. Although his French was only basic, the contents within immediately stunned him. These were not the diary entries of an upper-class housewife. There were no stories about dinner children or walks. Instead, each page meticulously recorded industrial activities, the movements of military personnel, and top-secret information that an ordinary woman would never have access to. The words breathed from another world, a world of spies, of political secrets, of movements in the shadows. In the small room of the Grazia area, amid the smell of old wood and the yellow light, Isef suddenly understood. The 1902 photograph was not just a family moment. It was a message sent through time, waiting for a patient enough eye and a quiet enough night to recognize it. The night was getting deeper. The sounds of the city outside seemed to recede to make way for the story that was slowly unfolding. From an old photograph, the scattered clues now began to piece together a completely different picture, one that the Vidal family could not have imagined for more than a century. After the shocking discoveries of Wiggs makeup and a French diary, Isef Martinez understood that this was far beyond the scope of a normal photo restoration project. He needed a sharper historical eye to decipher what he saw. So Isef turned to Dr. Elena Ruiz, a historian at the University of Barcelona, specializing in the early 20th century and especially known for her work on international espionage before World War I. In a room filled with the smell of old paper and ancient books, Dr. Ruiz carefully examined each digital photo Isef brought. Her gaze, accustomed to historical secrets, quickly became serious. It's hard to believe. She whispered, her fingers lightly touching the enlarged area where the tattoo and scar appeared. To alter one's appearance so dramatically in 1902, techniques and materials were not available to ordinary people. Isef showed her the outline of the wig, the layered makeup, then the photo of the lily tattoo behind her ear and the crescent-shaped scar at the corner of her eye. Dr. Ruiz was silent for a long time. Only the sound of pages turning in her personal library could be heard. Finally, she looked up, her eyes sharp. We need to look up historical intelligence records. These marks match the identification marks of spies of that time. She immediately contacted her colleagues in Paris, those who had access to the archives of the French intelligence agency. While waiting for a response, Dr. Ruiz began to examine the historical context of Spain from 1900-1905. This was a period of intense diplomatic tension. She explained, her voice steady, but not without excitement. France and Spain were competing for influence in Morocco, and both maintained spy networks to monitor each other's military capabilities. Isef also handed her diaries in French. Dr. Ruiz read and translated them directly, each sentence making the atmosphere in the room heavier. These are not personal diaries, she said slowly. They are intelligence reports. A passage dated April 1903 made her pause. Still trusted me completely. His connections with military contracts gave him access to information on new weapons technology. Details of the munitions factory were transferred in due course. Dr. Ruiz put the notebook down. R is Ricardo Vidal, she concluded, Esperanza's husband. If someone had used marriage to gain access to this information, they could have leaked important Spanish military secrets. She looked straight at Isef, her voice low. Mr. Martinez, I think you have just touched evidence of one of the most sophisticated espionage operations of the early 20th century. The woman in the photo is not Esperanza Vidal. She is a professional spy who has created a false life. What had seemed like a normal photo restoration project had now turned into an international historical investigation. 3 weeks later, the answer from Paris finally arrived. Dr. Ruiz received a lengthy email from Dr. Pierre Dubis, a French intelligence historian who had been looking at newly declassified documents at the French National Archives. The signs you have discovered the letter reads the lily tattoo and the crescent-shaped scar match exactly the profile of a legendary spy. Celeste Moreau, codename Margaret. Declassified files indicate that Celeste Moreau, born in Marseille in 1874, was recruited at the age of 22 because of her exceptional talent for languages, acting, and psychological manipulation. Her training included advanced disguise techniques, the art of seduction, and sophisticated methods of intelligence gathering, identifying features small lily tattoo behind her right ear, a secret sign during her training, crescent-shaped scar near her left eye, a reminder of her combat training, languages fluent in Spanish, Italian, and German, specialties, infiltration of the upper class, and strategic marriages. The files included a plan codenamed Operation Iberia 1898-1905 objective: infiltrate Spanish industry with ties to military contracts. Method: strategically marry an influential industrialist. Cover: Esperanza Montoya, orphaned from Valencia, no family to verify. Reading this, Isef felt the room spin. The 1902 family photograph, seemingly just a warm memory of a Barcelona family, was actually the cover of a huge spy operation, where love marriage and state secrets blended together in a perfect drama, lasting more than a century before the truth quietly emerged from the dust of an old photograph. Joseph began to realize that the pieces of this story were slowly leading him to a terrifying conclusion. All the fragmentary evidence, the photo, the secret symbols, the writing, the behavior pointed to Esperanza Vidal. Not being the woman the Vidal family had believed for over a century, this was no ordinary photo restoration. Joseph knew he needed the help of an expert. He sought out Dr. Elena Ruiz, a renowned historian at the University of Barcelona, who specialized in the study of international espionage in the early 20th century. Her office was a maze of old books and historical documents, the faint smell of yellowed paper taking one back to a lost time. Dr. Ruiz studied the enlarged images Joseph brought with her. A look of astonishment flashed across her eyes. This level of transformation is too sophisticated for 1902, she said slowly. These techniques cannot be performed by ordinary people. They require specialized knowledge and materials, something that is only available to intelligence personnel. Joseph continued to show her photos of the small fleur-de-lis tattoo behind her right ear and the crescent-shaped scar beside her left eye. Dr. Ruiz was silent for a long time, searching through old files as if searching for buried memories. Finally, she raised her head, her voice soft but weighty. we need to access historical intelligence files. These marks could very well be the identification marks of secret agents. She immediately contacted colleagues in Paris who had access to the archives of the French intelligence service. In the meantime, Dr. Ruiz continued to research the historical context of Spain from 1900 to 1905. She explained, this was a time of tension between Spain and France over the colonial issue of Morocco. Both countries maintained active spy networks to spy on each other's military capabilities. If Esperanza was not really Esperanza, then she could have been one of the key links in this game. Joseph also handed her the French diary pages he had photographed. Dr. Ruiz, fluent in French, translated them with a frown. These are not personal notes, she exclaimed. They are intelligence reports, detailed records of military production, troop movements, and industrial capacity, invaluable information for foreign intelligence services. A diary entry dated April 1903 sent shivers down both of their spines. R still trusts me completely. His connections with military contracts give him access to excellent information on new weapons technology. All the details of the munitions factory have been passed on in due course. Dr. Ruiz looked directly at Joseph. If someone marries an industrialist like Ricardo Vidal, who has military contracts, they can easily access state secrets. I'm afraid you found evidence of one of the most sophisticated espionage operations of the early 20th century. The woman in the photo is not Esperanza Vidal. She is a professional agent trained to infiltrate Spanish society. 3 weeks later, news arrived from Paris. Dr. Pierre Dubis, a historian of French intelligence, had found recently declassified documents. The contents of his email shocked both Joseph and Dr. A. Chill ran down Ruiz's spine. The markings you have discovered, the fleur-de-lis tattoo and the crescent-shaped scar, are a perfect match for one of our legendary agents, Celeste Moreau, alias Marguerite. She was once the brightest star of the French military intelligence service. The documents reveal Celeste Moreau was born in Marseille in 1874. She was recruited at the age of 22 because of her linguistic acting and social manipulation skills. Celeste's training included techniques of altering her appearance, the art of seduction, and information extraction, skills few in the world at the time could attain. The documents also describe the identifying marks, a tiny fleur-de-lis tattoo behind her right ear carved during her training, a crescent-shaped scar near her left eye, a remnant of a close combat training session, perfect command of Spanish, Italian, and German. Specialties infiltration of the upper class, strategic marriage. In the document, Joseph read a phrase that stunned him. Iberian Campaign, 1898-1905. Objective: infiltrate Spanish industrial corporations with military contracts. Method: marry a wealthy industrialist with government connections. Cover Esperanza, Montoya, orphan girl from Valencia, no family, no profession. Further documents reveal that the French intelligence service meticulously created a false identity for Celeste. They forged her birth certificate, created a verifiable past, and trained her in the Valencian dialect and culture to avoid suspicion. For 7 years, Celeste, under the name Esperanza, sent information back to France about new weapons, the location of military bases, and top-secret defense plans. By 1905, when the Spanish began to suspect an infiltration, Esperanza's death from tuberculosis was staged as a perfect retreat. Tuberculosis at the time required patients to be isolated, which explains why there were no witnesses to her final days. According to French records, Celeste Moreau continued her intelligence work until 1918, when she retired with a secret medal and a lifetime salary. Joseph was stunned. From a seemingly harmless photograph, he had touched one of the most sophisticated espionage operations in Europe. But now he faced his most difficult task, telling the truth to Maria Vidal, the woman's great-granddaughter. He arranged for Maria to meet Dr. Ruiz at the university. Maria arrived excited, thinking that her family was about to be honored for a valuable discovery. When she saw the enlarged images of the photograph and heard the documents being read, Maria was stunned. "It can't be," she whispered. "My family always said that Esperanza was a devoted wife and mother. How could she be a French spy?" Dr. Ruiz gently explained. "The best spies are those who can play the role of a wife and a mother. They can truly love, truly care, and still complete the mission." Maria trembled as she held the translated diary, reading the cold notes about how Esperanza had extracted information from Ricardo, the husband she had once considered the love of her life. She knew everything about us, about our family, about our secrets, about things no one outside this house knew. Maria fell silent. But between the pages of those cold reports, there were also passages that made Maria's heart sink. A diary entry from 1904 confessed, "The children have become closer to me than I intended. Ricardo is a good man. He did not deserve this betrayal. But my duty to France forces me to continue. I only hope when it is all over, they will forgive me for what they will never understand." Joseph also showed Maria evidence that Celeste, despite being a spy, had secretly transferred large sums of money into accounts that Ricardo would later discover as a guarantee for the family's future. She loved them in her own way. Dr. Ruiz said softly, "The best spies are those who retain some humanity, even when they have to live a lie." It took Maria weeks to accept that the family photo she had cherished all her life, which seemed like a mere token of love, hid a counter-espionage story that shook Europe. Joseph, looking back on this journey, could only whisper, "It all started with a photo." Do you feel strange? A seemingly peaceful portrait could open a dark chapter in European history. Who knows? How many old photos in family drawers are also silently holding untold secrets? Documents from the French intelligence archives continue to reveal chilling details of what Celeste Moreau, under the name Esperanza Vidal, secretly passed around between 1898 and 1905. It wasn't just a few notes. It was detailed specifications for the new Mauser rifle, produced by Spain under German license, the exact coordinates of ammunition depots in Barcelona and Valencia, and most importantly, the Spanish defense plan for Morocco, a colony at the center of a power struggle. Dr. Elena Ruiz leaned slightly toward Joseph, her voice a chilling whisper in a room filled with old books. During this period, France and Spain were competing fiercely for control of Morocco. With the amount of information Moreau provided, the French held virtually all the cards. They knew Spain's strengths and weaknesses before the negotiations began, even before a shot was fired. Joseph was stunned. He began to understand that Ricardo Vidal Esperanza's husband was involved in government contracts more sensitive than the family had ever imagined. Ricardo's textile factory not only made uniforms but also quietly manufactured ammunition components and military communications equipment. Information that French intelligence would pay any price to possess. One extraordinary document revealed that Moreau's information had directly contributed to the 1906 Treaty of Algeciras, where France had won major concessions in Morocco. French negotiators were now aware of every detail of Spain's defenses. Information that could only have come from a source like Celeste Moreau. Joseph wondered if Spanish intelligence had ever discovered this dangerous game. In the archives of the Spanish Ministry of War, he found documents showing that in 1905, the government had begun investigating the possibility that French spies had infiltrated industrial plants. A report from March of that year, the same month as Esperanza died, singled out the wife of a Barcelona textile mill owner for showing an unusual interest in military matters. The scheduled interrogation had barely begun when Esperanza suddenly died of tuberculosis. Dr. Ruiz nodded slightly, her voice a cold finale. It was a perfect retreat. The French got her out just before the cover fell. An impeccable operation. Joseph looked back at the 1902 family photograph that he had once considered an art restoration project. Now he saw it as a testament to the covert war between the European powers, a moment when Spain was penetrated by one of the most successful female spies of the era. But there was one question that kept both Joseph and Dr. Ruiz awake. What happened to Ricardo Vidal's 3 innocent children after their spy mother disappeared? Maria Vidal, a descendant of the family, provided the remaining pieces of the puzzle. The 3 children, Carmen, born in 1899, Diego in 1901, and Isabel in 1903, were raised by Ricardo with the help of his sister after Esperanza's death. Ricardo never remarried, remaining faithful to his wife's memory all his life. Joseph found educational records of the children in expensive private schools. A strange finding, since the family was said to have suffered financially after Esperanza's death. Tuition was regularly paid by an anonymous charity that helped the children of industrial families who had done great service to the country. After weeks of searching, Joseph discovered a chilling truth. The charity was actually a cover set up by French intelligence as part of Moreau's exit plan. The French wanted the 3 children to receive a full education, a gesture both humane and to avoid arousing suspicion. If Esperanza's children were to suffer poverty, difficult questions would soon arise. Educational records showed that all 3 were excellent students, especially in languages. Carmen was naturally fluent in French. Diego showed a talent for mathematics and science with a particular passion for French military technology. Isabel, the youngest, was passionate about literature and art, and in 1920 emigrated to Paris, where she was recruited to the French Foreign Ministry, thanks to letters of recommendation whose origins she could not explain. Maria gave Joseph letters from her children when they were adults. One letter from Carmen, written in 1925, contains a chilling line. "Sometimes I feel you have taught us things I never understood, as if you knew more than any ordinary Spanish woman." Dr. Ruiz quietly offers a haunting hypothesis. Perhaps Celeste Moreau was unconsciously preparing her children for careers that could serve France. A professional spy understands the value of lasting influence even after the main mission has ended. Joseph suddenly realizes Moreau's mission did not end in 1905. It left a trail that lasted for decades, silently shaping the lives of innocent children and generations of descendants, who never knew who the woman they called mother or grandmother really was. With the evidence indisputable, Joseph knew this was no longer a family story, but a chapter of history that needed to be known to the world. He decided to compile all the documents, from carefully restored photos, translations of French documents, to entire intelligence files, to present to historical institutes in Spain and France. But before bringing the truth to light, Joseph wanted Maria Vidal and her family to have the opportunity to decide how to publish this story. During an emotional meeting in Maria's old apartment, Joseph laid it all out. Magnified photos of every detail, translations of top secret documents, and a complete timeline of Operation Morrow. Maria invited many family members to attend. They listened in silence, their eyes shifting from amazement to pain. When they discovered that the photo they had cherished as a love keepsake was actually a testament to lies and international espionage. If an ordinary family portrait can hide secrets enough to change the course of European history, then how many other photos, lying quietly in old drawers, are whispering stories we have never heard? The Vidal family sat around the old wooden table, silent, as if the whole room were holding its breath with them. As Joseph spread out the restored photographs and the translation of the secret French document before everyone, it felt as if the past of more than a century had quietly returned. Their reactions were complicated. Some relatives were stunned, feeling betrayed, and wanting to keep the story quiet to protect the family's honor. But there were others, their eyes lit up as if driven by an irresistible curiosity. Carlos Vidal Maria's cousin leaned in slightly and said in a surprisingly calm voice, "Perhaps we should be proud. Although she was a spy, our great-grandmother was clearly an extraordinary woman, daring to live a life of risk and daring that few of her contemporaries could imagine." Maria was silent for a long time before speaking. She knew the family needed a direction, a choice not only for the present, but for the memories of many generations. "The story must be told," she said softly, "but it must be told in a way that is worthy of both her, the Celeste Morrow with her national duty, the wife and mother Esperanza Vidal, and the pain Ricardo endured." Joseph and Dr. Ruiz began preparing a detailed study that would respect the historical truth while preserving the emotional nuances of the story. The article was published simultaneously in Spanish and French historical journals, creating an almost immediate buzz. Intelligence researchers across Europe quickly contacted her, hoping to access the digitized images and the entire document. Many called it a living testament to the sophistication of early 20th century espionage, far beyond what historians had ever imagined. Soon after, the French Ministry of Culture issued an official statement acknowledging the espionage operation for the first time. Between 1898 and 1905, the statement read, "French intelligence services carried out operations in Spain in the service of national security. We pay our respects to the families who were unwittingly involved and acknowledge the moral complexity of the period." Joseph realized that his seemingly small project to restore the photograph had become a major historical discovery. He had not only rewritten a hidden corner of Europe, but also demonstrated that modern technology could bring centuries-old secrets back to light. A year later, Joseph was invited to Paris to present his findings at the International Conference on the History of Intelligence. His presentation, "When Technology Unmasks the Past: The Case of the Forgotten Spy," quickly became the conference's hottest topic. It was in Paris that a chance encounter opened another window into the past. A 78-year-old woman named Marie Claire Morrow approached Joseph, introducing herself as Celeste Moreau's niece. She brought old family letters, evidence from the French side. My family always knew Aunt Celeste had done something important for France, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But we never knew the whole story. Seeing this photograph, understanding her life, is hard to describe. In the letters Celeste sent to her sister after her discharge in 1905, the tone was both proud and tormented. I will never forget the family I was forced to leave behind, she wrote. Although I have done my duty to France, I still carry in my heart the feeling of betrayal of good people. I only hope that one day they will be able to forgive me for what they will never fully understand. The meeting between Marie Claire and Maria Vidal, arranged by Joseph, becomes a particularly historic moment. Two branches of the family, once bound by secrets and betrayals, sit across from each other, talking honestly about the legacy of the dead. Your great-grandmother truly loved your family, Marie, Claire says softly. Her letters are filled with the pain of living two lives. Maria listens, then replies, her eyes calm but profound. I cannot justify what she did, but I can understand. She was caught between duty to her country and love for her family. It was a tragedy of both the heart and the times. The two women decide to work together on a memorial project, an exhibition space that honors both Ricardo Vidal, the deceived husband, and Celeste Moreau, the woman who lived a courageous life but paid for it with her own happiness. Joseph donated the restored original photograph and all the documents to the Barcelona History Museum, where a permanent exhibition is now held entitled Hidden Identities, Spies and Families in Spain 1902. In the quiet gallery under the soft yellow light, the seemingly peaceful family photograph has become a living witness to a period of intrigue where love and national duty were intertwined like untangling threads. The exhibition Hidden Identities tells the full story, from the sophisticated digital reconstruction techniques to the fragments of documents that made this shocking discovery. The 1902 family photograph, once a sweet symbol of a peaceful home, now stands as a living witness, revealing complex layers of history about international espionage and hearts caught between duty and love. Visitors can see both the original photo and digital enlargements, where every tiny detail on the photographic paper hides secrets that have gone unnoticed for generations. Alongside are documents that explain the tense geopolitical landscape of the early 20th century, maps notes and secret notes that once shaped the fate of Europe. At the opening, Joseph stood before the crowd, speaking slowly as if confiding. This photograph reminds us that history is rarely simple. People we believe we understand may have lived extraordinary secret lives. Modern technology helps us uncover these stories, but also forces us to confront the moral and human complexities of the past. The Vidal family, after months of struggle, finally found peace. They no longer saw Celeste Moreau as a destroyer of happiness, but as a conflicted historical figure, a woman who lived in an era when loyalty to her country often clashed with love and family. Joseph continued his work of restoring photographs, but with a different mindset. Each old photograph was now not just a work of art to be saved, but also a door that could open secrets that had been silent for hundreds of years. He looked at each fading face in the old photos and wondered, under those layers of time dust, how many extraordinary stories are waiting to be awakened. The story of the 1902 spy became a gentle but profound reminder history is not only in official documents, but also hidden in seemingly harmless family photos. The faces of our ancestors still watching us, waiting for the technology of the future to gently touch and reveal strange truths that the ancients never dared to tell.